Well, hey everybody, this is Don with the Vlog of Many Things. Welcome to my video. This is going to be a short video, and I'm going to talk about death and does death really have a role in role playing. This video is made in conjunction with Eric Tenkar from Tenkar's Tavern, Joe the Lawyer, and Joe Block, the Greyhawk Grognard. We're all coordinating for January on different videos. We're going to be all doing an independent video on Friday. Then we're going to be having a live stream on Sundays where we're going to kind of break more deep into the subject. And this weekend subject is death in role playing. And really, I mean, does it really have a role in the game? You know, and whether you think it does or it doesn't, what is your argument for it? So, I personally think that death has a really definitive place in role playing, and I think it's very defining. So, I'm going to break down. And I've been doing a lot of thinking about this since we talked about the topic, and I'm going to break this down to 7 points. Um, and I'm going to be real brief about this because we're going to get more in depth this Sunday. Now, I think that death plays a really powerful role in creating tension in a game, meaning for the game. It makes players emotionally invested in the game because they're emotionally invested in their player characters. Um, Dungeon and Dragons, I think that, you hear people all the time going, oh, I had a character that died in seventh level. I really like that character. Well, they became emotionally invested in that character, and death kind of severed that emotional investment, you know. But on to my 7 points. Number one, I think that things like death gives people's choices weight. As an example, you know, if there is the possibility to death, you're just not going to arbitrarily run into a room with a red dragon in there. You're just not going to do it. Um, Things like if you're deep in a dungeon and you got characters that are low on hit points, the possibility of death is going to influence your decisions on things like, are you going to split up your party? Are you going to go ahead and use that last healing potion on the magic user, or is it better to use it on the fighter? Um, you know, I think that the big thing about death and giving people's choices is it also gives people pause, and it causes players to debate more within the game because what they know is they know that there's going to be lasting consequences to their decisions. Um, and plus, without the possibility of death, many choices become, I think, almost cosmetic, ancillary, because with it, every action can become a story defining gamble for the players. I mean, death is real for player characters. You get player characters that have seventh, eighth level, ninth level characters. They have put a lot of time and effort into their characters, a lot of thought. So I think death really offers a lot of positives for the game. Number two, I think from death comes tension, and from tension comes uncertainty. Things like rolling a death save, or characters watching their hit points drop on the magic user. Um, you know, uh, you know, what's that magic user, or what is that cleric going to choose spell wise? Are they going to load up front heavy on the healing spells, or more of the defensive spells? Um, you know, I think that also, everyone at the table, when you have death as a possibility, you know, I think it adds kind of like unscripted element, because, death makes combat feel dangerous. When people fail at things, I think they feel like, and then they succeed, they finally earned it instead of just being given it. It can do things like, if players narrowly escape a trap, or narrowly escape, a party of orcs or hobgoblins. It feels, like it's a triumph for them. Also, things like death makes people's heroism feel meaningful. Maybe the paladin, um, maybe you're in a deep dungeon, and you're in a narrow hallway. Maybe the hallway's 5 foot wide, and the paladin's gonna bottleneck the hallway to allow the magic user and the small child you rescued to escape, and they're going to sacrifice themselves. Heroic moments become brighter when death, I think, is a real possibility for the players. um, you know Again, it's one of those things where um, I don't know. I just really think that the idea of sacrificing yourself for your player characters, that's like the purest form of death, you know. Because keep in mind one thing, sacrifice only has power when something's really valuable is at stake. As example, like I said, they rescued the child from the goblins, and the paladin's going to sacrifice him or herself so the child can live. That's using death as a meaningful outcome for the rest of the party. Sacrifice. Number four, with death comes loss, and with loss, you have emotional investment in your player characters. You have relationships with your fellow players. Relationships built up over many many sessions or many many months or weeks of playing together. um, you might have unfinished arcs, story arcs, or goals that really affect the way that you look at things, because you don't want your player character dying because you haven't finished what you need to finish yet. Um, you know how NPCs react to you, as the party changes. Just things like this. Where the campaign gains emotional texture, that I don't think that it would exist without the possibility of failure or death. Number five, I think death gives the world credibility. The world that we adventure in. Villains feel threatening, as an example. Monsters feel dangerous. Maybe the setting that your dungeon master created, maybe it feels alive. Maybe possibly even indifferent. And I'm not saying that death should be common, but also I think it should be possible, and its rarity makes it impactful, not trivial. Number six, and I'm almost done here. I think death encourages clever play. I think death encourages player characters and players in general to play smarter, if you will. Knowing death is on the table, I think encourages players to plan ahead. I think it encourages players to use tactics and creativity in how they approach the game or the setting or the adventure, or the encounters. I think it encourages people to engage in teamwork. And I also think that risk pushes players to engage with the game more thoughtfully. Um, you know, rather than treating the encounter like a puzzle with guaranteed success, they do it more tactically. They think it through. You know, um, Again, that's where, you know, is death, for a first level character, more worrisome than a eighth level character? Well, the person who has an eighth level PC has put a lot of time and effort into that player character, and I think that really impacts the player character. And then finally, death, I don't think is the end of the game. I think it's just a beat to the story that the DM's playing. You know, um, you know, you have things like resurrection quests, legacies, reincarnations. Successors can turn, as an example, death into a turning point, for players. Um, you know, uh, I think that death can be a catalyst for a new story. I think death can be a reminder of what the party fights for in general, how they handled something. Did they handle it well? Did they handle it bad? So basically, I think in Dungeon Dragons, death creates tension because it introduces uncertainty, basically. And it also injects meaning into the game, because I think that player characters' sacrifices matter and their actions matter in the game. So I think it's about giving the story real stakes. So when the hero survives, their survival means something in general to the game. So that's my 7 points. I want to keep it brief. We are only looking at, I'm looking at, 9 minutes. I thought this was going to be a really big, huge video. So this is Don with the Vlog of Many Things. Please hit that like and subscribe, because I think because we're all kind of joining forces here, what that's allowing is if you like my video, Joe Deloy will get the like, and Eric will get the like, and Joe Block, and vice versa. So no matter what channel you're watching, hit that like and subscribe. So this is Don with the Vlog of Many Things signing off. I'll see you guys Sunday, where I'm going to be again online with Joe Block, the Grognard, Joe the Lawyer, and Eric Tenker from Tenkar's Tavern, and we're going to be talking about death. So talk to you guys later.